I'm concerned with is that, it says a tough economy, and it's gotten really, really, really difficult, and nobody really knows where the whole thing's going to land in the next few days, few weeks, few months, few years. But it says that, the state is probably in dire straits as much as we are in the state. And my concern is that we're going to get another financial aid whack from the state. So we've got to start making our point to our state representative and our state senator that that's unacceptable. And that, in fact, we expect more from the state, particularly in light of the fact that we put $500,000 to $600,000 of higher taxpayer money from the people of Hull into managing the DCR reservation from a police, fire, and ambulance point of view. And we should get that money back to the state or not provide those services. So I'd like to make a motion that the board write a letter to the DCR saying we expect reimbursement for 2009 and that we're not going to provide those services in 2010 unless we're paid for them up front. And if that's a problem for them, then don't open the reservation. Because essentially we're talking about $500,000 to $600,000 a year of expenses that we're incurring to provide services to people to visit our town, and the DCR properties are providing virtually no revenue to us whatsoever to offset those costs.
Regarding Ms. Markle's motion about no service, can we get a legal opinion on that regarding what Mr. Markle just said? If assuming we do go forward and not provide at least fire ambulance service to DCR, what that legal implications have for the town?
Sure.
Your opinion?
You want it right now? I want to give a little thought to the, as I think the public safety departments would also similarly want to weigh in on that. I don't think anyone disagrees with the meaning and the emphasis behind the motion. Implementing it may raise some issues that I think before anyone speaks on it, on what the impact of that would be. We should have a little discussion with the affected department. So while I anticipated you wanted it right now, I don't think that would be the best way to give an answer to that without discussing it with the department heads too.
We've had this discussion in the past, and while everyone's in agreement with the cost to the town, one of the things that's come up, one of the things I was concerned with was, hey, what if somebody I know or somebody from town is down at the beach and they're using the reservation and something happens to happen to that individual, and because we have this policy, the police and fire don't respond, and then the next day you open up the paper and there's somebody from Hull had a heart attack, nobody was there to respond, unfortunately the person did say a lifelong Hull resident. So those are the concerns that the board had before, and reasons why the board hasn't adopted it. I can speak for myself. I know my dad takes my kids, down to that reservation all the time, has miniature golf with them, takes them over to the bandstand. There's a lot of elderly people who use the bandstand and stuff, and I would hate to see one of those people not get the services they needed because we were trying to save $100,000.
Ms. Markle, would you consider a motion to warn or give the state something along the lines that we're seriously considering cutting service as opposed to making that decision right now, Ms. Scott?
Well, I modified the motion to direct Mr. Lampy to give us a legal opinion on it at the very least and see how quickly we can get that. But I really do think that, at some point we need to stand on the State House steps and say, come on, guys, you owe us for this. And not only that, it's not just a $500,000 or $600,000 in expense, it's the lost opportunity cost of 20-some-odd acres of prime property in the middle of town. Doesn't produce a dime in revenue to this town. $2 or $3 for parking is absurd. And it goes into the general fund for the state of Massachusetts and gets spent all over the place, other than Hull. So, these issues need to get straightened out. And, it seems to me that in the current circumstances, we can anticipate they're going to cut financial aid. They're certainly not going to increase it. They're not going to certainly not going to increase it at a level that is commensurate with inflation and the cost of providing services. And so, when you look at the fact that we spend $500,000 or $600,000 a year in expenses, we're losing $1 million or $1.5 million a year in real estate taxes from those properties that we can't get anything from. It's like they literally cut the heart and soul of the economic engine in this town out and expect us to continue to provide those services. It's just absurd. So, in my mind, it's time to, do the Lenny Hirsch thing and get in the bus and go stand on the State House steps and say, enough is enough.
I mentioned Lenny Hirsch, and 2 years back when we talked about getting parking permit fees, he said, send him a bill. So while we're waiting for a legal opinion or whatever, you want to just start the dialogue, which I'm sure will ensue from it, send them a bill.
We can, I think you're right, though, I think whether, how we do it, I would just make sure we do our homework first, and I think you're right, though, I think we need to put our foot down.
I will say in reference to what Mr. Riley suggested, about sending a bill to the state, that as I suggested in the past, the best way, I think, to deal with that issue, at least going forward, is to be in contact with DCR, either directly or through our state House delegation, to arrange a meeting with them so that when they put that contract out for bid, that as a condition of the contract, that person, the company that gets it, has to obtain a license from the town of Hull. The state argument has always been that, well, they're hiring a company to run the parking lot. The state is exempt from having to pay that type of a fee to the town, and this company is acting as their agent. That's why the fees, frankly, by DCR regulations, are set at the strangely low rate that they are. But if DCR was of the mind to require the company that they contract with to get the license from the town, whatever that license permit requirement is, you know, that's, I think, a more effective way of dealing with it, because that needs to be, that's a way to do it. And I would urge the board to consider pursuing that.